In this video, I'm going to explore what you can do to expand your business after you've got your basic deal flow in place. So there's a couple of expansion routes. Primary is scaling up with a newsletter and adding a subscription model to that newsletter. You can also become a lead aggregator and a deals aggregator within your area by working with other lead generators. A geographical expansion would mean expanding from the one location that you chose initially into other locations, basically by replicating the same system that we've been working through in other locations. And you can also franchise or even sell this model of business to other people who want to get into property sourcing. So if you're franchising it to them, then they may not already be property sourcers, but you'd be showing them how to do that for a fee, obviously, and getting them set up. Or you could just go ahead and sell the website system to other property sources for a fee. People who are already in the business but don't have an online lead generation mechanic. So let's first look at the newsletter. This is what I've found to be one of the most regularly profitable ways to scale up a lead generation business and property sourcing in particular, because people are willing to spend a lot of money on a subscription to a very valuable resource like this. So as your volume of deals grows, it's going to become more and more tricky, more difficult to hand curate each and every deal. When you have 10 leads per week, it's okay to go through them one at a time and to work out who the best investors would be for those particular deals. When you're talking about getting 100 leads a week, it becomes almost impossible without having to hire somebody to do that, almost as a full-time job. So at this point, a regular newsletter is really useful. This is basically a once-a-week summary of all the deals from the week sent out to the whole list. So let's say you have 100 people on your list and you're getting 100 deals per week. You'd go through those 100 deals, you would pick out, let's say, the top 50, and you'd send them out to your curated list of 100 investors. You can also shoot out one-time featured deals, which can be sent out of schedule. So if there's something that comes onto your books which looks really exciting, you could send that out midweek. So not in the weekly newsletter, but as a highlighted featured deal that you want to get out to people ASAP. So setting up a newsletter requires an autoresponder, because you can't actually do it from your Google Mail or from your business mail address without getting in trouble with canned spam laws. So if you're sending out an email to hundreds of people a few times a week, eventually that email address might get blacklisted. You might start to get into trouble with it. This really depends on how large your list is, and as long as the people know you and don't flag it up as spam, you should be fine. But even then, it's useful to move to a mailing list provider for the larger lists. They also provide a lot more tools, like you can segment your investors into different groups within the mailing list as well. So we talked about segmentation briefly in the last video. Let's say you have 100 investors on your list, and 30 of them are only interested in commercial properties. They would be put into a separate list within your email software, and they would receive all of the commercial only deals. So the autoresponder, that's the name of the email software. These are just very useful for this kind of segmentation and organization, which if you try to do through Gmail or through your business account, email account, that's going to be quite difficult. So there's MailChimp, there's Aweber. Both of these are cheap. I think MailChimp is free up until 2,000 subscribers, which is more than enough. Aweber is also very cost effective. Even with the paid plans, you're talking about $15, maybe £10 per month. So they're very cost effective and they're worthwhile investing in. Both of these would be sufficient for email blasts to large lists of people without getting in trouble with the canned spam laws. There are more complicated systems like Infusionsoft, but that starts at $150 or $200 per month. So right now that's probably overkill, and MailChimp or Aweber would do the job for you. So MailChimp is probably the simplest. There are many others out there that have more powerful features, but the more powerful features you have, the more complications you have, and the more potential difficulties you're going to find with your emailing software. So MailChimp is really easy to set up. There's a very good walkthrough on the site which takes you through everything and makes sure your newsletters are branded properly using your logos, etc., etc. Or you can hire somebody again on Fiverr for 50 quid, probably less, maybe 30 quid, to set up the account, prepare some newsletter templates, and import your existing mail list, and basically get everything set up for you. It's a simple piece of software, so you could do it yourself, or you could pay someone a small amount to do this. So MailChimp does make it possible to create very beautiful HTML templated emails. If you've ever received an email from a retailer, so maybe Peter Jones or John Lewis in the UK, or Sears in America, you probably received one of these HTML emails. All this means is it looks great. It might have borders and colors and lots of photos. It might be formatted for the Christmas season, for instance. You probably know the type of emails I mean. They're very graphical. They're very visually arresting. They look great, but they actually decrease deliverability. A lot of mail servers, especially work mail servers, will reject this type of email. Or they'll allow the email to go through, but the images will be removed and the email ends up looking an absolute mess, because instead of having images, it will have the small icon with a square with an X in it, which means the image could not be loaded. So your email just ends up being covered in missing images, and it's very hard to read. So for this, plain text is actually better. Plain text and maybe some basic inserted or attached images. This will increase the amount of emails that get through to people. They're also easier to read. They look less salesy, and it makes, in a strange way, it makes your leads and your deals seem more fresh and more believable. If you've had time to put your deals together in a fancy looking newsletter, then maybe those deals are no longer fresh. Whereas if your investors see you've basically hastily copy-pasted the details into an email and got it off to them as quickly as possible, they know that the deal is fresh, and that it's still on the table and there's still money for them to be made there. Speed is very important in this industry. So in a way, making a beautiful looking email template actually hinders you from making sales. So working with MailChimp or any other email software is going to be the same as your manual emails that you've been doing already. You're basically going to copy paste in the lead details, remove the address and any contact details, and put in maybe a couple of images. The only difference here is that you will be putting all of your leads into one email. So if you have 10 leads coming in during the week, you'd put them all into one newsletter email and send it out to your whole list and ask people to contact you if they're interested. This is just a way of broadcasting larger volumes of deals to larger volumes of investors. That's the only difference. The very cool thing though about the newsletter is that as your list grows and the number of deals per week increases, your email becomes a very valuable resource. It's not just the deals, but it's the whole email is a very valuable tool for your potential investors. This opens up a new revenue opportunity, which is charging for a newsletter subscription. So you could charge, and I charge more than this actually, you could charge £100 per month to receive weekly emails with potential leads. I charge about 120 at the moment. The great thing about this is that it's a recurring revenue. You're going to be getting this money each and every month, and it's a very predictable revenue. Yes, people are going to leave your list, and that's fine, because you can keep adding new people to the list, but they tend not to all leave at the same time unless you've done something very badly wrong, which means your newsletter is always going to be giving you this little cushion, this cash cushion each and every month. So even if you have a month where you don't manage to source a lead, no deals complete, and you don't collect any finder's fees, you're still going to have this cushion, this cash flow coming in. Also, it adds up pretty quickly. If you have 100 subscribers at £100 a month, we're looking at £10,000 a month of additional revenue for really not doing much more work. So it's 100k plus per year, and this is going to be on top of any leads you manage to complete with your investors. The other really cool thing about charging for your newsletter is that it weeds out anyone who's a time waster. There's a lot of people out there who want to be investors, but they never get off the fence, and they never actually put their money where their mouth is. So instead, you'll be narrowing down your list. You'll have a smaller list who will be paying for your services, but your smaller list is going to be composed only of serious investors, professional investors who know that £100 a month or £120 a month is a very small cost to be paying compared to the value that you're providing. Whereas with amateur investors, it will seem like a lot of money because they are not completing any deals and they're not making enough money to make this worthwhile for them. So this is a good way to remove the tire kickers and focus only on professional investors. Also, the higher price of the list, the subscription to the list, actually is attractive to serious investors because they know it's going to remove other people from the competition. They know it's not actually 1,000 people or 10,000 people receiving this email. Instead, it's going to be 100 serious investors, and they'd prefer that rather than it being a more public deal. This is why professional investors don't generally use Zoopla and Rightmove, because those deals are public. Everyone has that same information, and there's very little chance for a professional investor to get a good deal there. So another thing you can work on later is you can become an aggregator. Once you have a large number of investors on your list, you can become an aggregator and include this as part of your subscription model. So what you do here is you'd put other sourcing agencies' deals on your email broadcast. So you'd contact all the sourcing agents in your area and get them to send you their leads. They'll send you the leads, but they won't send you the names, address and contact details, because then you could steal their leads, but you don't need that. You just need the property details, much like what you've been sending to investors previously. So what you then do is you put their leads into your list. Why would we do this? So on their side, the property sourcer who has sent you the leads are going to be getting more reach and then a higher chance of closing deals and collecting commissions. On your side, you get more high quality leads on your list for free. And remember, you don't need to put all of their deals onto your list. Let's say you have 5 agents sourcing agents in the area who are interested in working with you because they can get their deals in front of your 100 investors. So each week they're going to send you what they think are their best deals. You can go through those deals as well, and then put the best ones into your email list and send them out to your investors. This means that your email newsletter and your email circular is of a higher value because you've got even more leads than just the leads that you're generating. This means there's more value to the investors, and the higher subscription cost is justifiable, or you can use this to get more subscribers. If you can say, oh, each week I'm going to send you 50 leads, which would be, let's say, your 10 leads plus 40 leads from other people, then suddenly this is a very valuable resource, and charging £100 per month is not a problem. So the next obvious expansion, and you probably already thought of this, and lots of people jump ahead quickly, is location expansion. I suggested initially you focus on one home patch, which could be your local area, or at least an area that you know well and you're able to work in and connect with property investors in the area and maybe go and meet home sellers. So this is your home patch. It could be where you live, it might not be, it doesn't really matter. But what you can now do with expansion, now that you have experience with this model, is expand into other locations. There's nothing local about the model itself. You can set up a website for Birmingham even if you don't live in Birmingham. So the only reason we started in our home area was because it gives you a higher chance of initial success. It's the best place to start testing out this idea and testing out this business model and to find your feet and gain confidence. but really you can duplicate the site for each region, or create a non-geographically bound site. It could be a nationwide site. You could do the whole of UK. I would tend to suggest you focus on specific areas, but it's really up to you and how ambitious you want to be. So in terms of practicalities, all you need to do is repeat the exact same thing that we've been doing through this course. You need to get a new website up. So let's say our first website was londonse1propertydeals.com. Maybe we now set up birminghampropertydeals.com. I don't know if that exists, but for this example, let's use that. So we set up that new website. We customize it to focus on Birmingham, and we then repeat the traffic sources, so Facebook, local marketing, Google AdWords and LinkedIn for that particular area in Birmingham, and we'll be building up a new list of investors and home sellers. It's actually going to be easier second time, because when you talk to the investors, you can say, oh, I already do this in London and I have a list of 100 investors and I find 50 property deals per week. It's going to be a lot easier to get the investors on board based on your track record. So the main limitation is going to be your lack of local marketing versus via networking. That said though, you can still carve out time to go and visit that location, and I recommend you do, to go to specific networking events. And generally I find that if you are visiting, let's say Birmingham or Belfast for just a couple of days, you'll tend to be a lot more efficient with your networking. So this is not necessarily a bad thing as you expand geographically. So really it's going to be the exact same process, just repeated for different areas. This also opens up another business idea. What about you do the geographic expansion, but you use partners in the local areas? So these are going to be local partners in the areas that you have targeted and think would be interesting to expand this model into. All you need to do is show them what you've been doing, you show them the model, you can tell them how much money you've been making, and then you ask them to partner with you in their local region. You'd split the work, you'd split the profit, and you could actually build up a whole network of partners. You would be in charge of bringing them the idea, maybe setting up the website and generating the traffic. They'd be in charge of the local networking, getting local investors on board, visiting local properties to check them out, get photos, etc., etc. So they're going to be doing the groundwork, and you provide the system, the business system. Generally, I'd say you'd want to split the marketing costs. So how much you spend on Facebook or how much you spend on Google AdWords is going to determine how successful the traffic is. So if you are taking all of those costs yourself and you're paying for all of those marketing costs, then you deserve to take a larger portion of the business. Whereas if they're going to be paying for the marketing costs, then they deserve to take a larger portion of the business. So one thing to do here is to potentially just split the advertising and agree upon a 50-50 split as you begin to scale up. You can also use the revenues from the business to increase the marketing, so that makes it easier to grow using your internal revenues. Another thing you can do, if this sounds like too much work, is you can just sell this system, this model, to property sources in local areas. This becomes pretty much hands-off, so instead of partnering, you find people who are interested in the system and you sell it to them. So here you'd work almost as a consultant. You'd be providing them with a business system and you'd guide them through how to get it up and running based on your own experiences. So you won't be taking a portion of the of their ongoing profits, but you will be taking a cash fee upfront in order to help them get set up. So I'm going to be looking below at white labeling the system and the setup process. So this is actually something my team can do for you. You can approach people, you can sell them the system for as much as you want, and then you come back to me and we'll get it set up for them and get it live for them, and you pay our fee and then you take the difference. So really that's another business you could be looking into, and that's a white labeling business. So check below this video for the opportunity and some more details about how this works. Just To be clear though, I'm mentioning this only right at the end of the course because I have had previous businesses where people just jumped to the reselling, and they jumped to the white labeling without knowing anything about the business. They just wanted to make a quick buck. So I've put this right at the end, so it's for people who understand, who are serious about the system, people who are doing it, I hope, and they're not just trying to make a quick buck by reselling it as a white labeling opportunity. So now that you have gone through all these videos and you've been very patient, and thank you, you've been a great audience, you are now in a position where you are able to go to other people, explain the system, and then provide this white labeling service. So that's why I've left this all the way until the end as a special gift, and as another thing that you can add to your existing business.